Pineapple juice will work for me. Pineapple juice. Pineapple juice.
Pineapple juice.
It's healthy.
Greetings to all and welcome to the All CNI. I am Brother J. Crumbay, Divine Minister, and it is indeed a pleasure as I am deeply moved by the overwhelming response of those who are attending our first platform and many more to come, emphasizing the Reconstruction era, one of our socioeconomics, a topic so fitting to the situations, conditions, situations, and circumstances that we now live with today, that in some cases have become hurdles and obstacles and stumbling blocks, etc., that are a prerequisite for the social and economic demise of an entire people. Today, we have been graced to have on our panel some active and progressive thinkers who are daring to do wondrous things in exposing just a glimpse of the socioeconomic divide that leaves an entire nation of people on the outside as a constant consumer versus being a producer of creation, development, and implementation of what's required to have socioeconomic independence and/or freedom. I would like to introduce our panel. We have Brother T. Zeal, Grand Governor of Missouri, community activist, business mogul, who's going to be speaking with us tonight. And we're definitely graced to have him on the call with us. We have Sister Kay Spearman-Ill, certified entrepreneur facilitator. The sister holds a master's degree in administrative leadership and a bachelor's degree in business administration. We have Brother R. Ford Bay, Assistant Grand Sheik of Temple Number 25 in Detroit, Michigan. He's also a community activist. He's a business mogul as well as a business developer. We have Sister P. Smith Bay. She is the chairman of the Young People's Moorish National League. She's also the Assistant Grand Governor of the state of Illinois and a divine minister. And we're going to be hearing from these brothers and sisters as they begin to share with us different issues highlighting our socioeconomic divide. Because as we look at the climate today, in this diaspora of what's taking place here on these northern shores, we find that the Asiatic community at large hasn't been a player in our economic securities for quite some time. You know, when we look back in retrospect, one of the most glaring examples of inherited inequalities of wealth distribution, you know, our people, the percentage of ownership of the nation's wealth, it still remains the way it was back in the 1860s. And on the eve of the Civil War at that time, when nearly every Asiatic in America was either in full slavery or semi-slavery, we owned then only 0.5% of the nation's wealth. The emancipation of enslaved Asiatics in no sense rendered social justice and economic recompense. Now today, more than 140 years later, we are 100% free, but yet, you know, we still own only 0.5% of this nation's wealth. And today, the income of Asiatics as compared to their counterparts has regressed to the level it was at the end of the 1960s. Approximately 38% of our population is beneath the poverty line, and another 1/3 is marginal. Now, just above the poverty line, the limited assets of the Asiatics of America most often have such as automobiles and personal effects. These things depreciate rather than appreciate in value. Even finding our homes usually our most valued assets have a limited market value on the face of the properties as they appreciate in value as they progressively go forward. What I'm saying in short, brothers and sisters, is that our economic status as a people has not changed much. And when we look at where we're going to find ourselves in the years to come, if we don't act now and create economic security bases, then we'll find ourselves constantly being a beggar nation, as Noble Drew Ali has emphasized many times in the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Now, these brothers and sisters, they're going to shed a little light about business development, what's required, the different components thereof that we need to be a player on the field of economic security.
I didn't understand that.
Excuse me. Brother Ironzeel?
Yes, sir.
So glad to have you on the call. I mean, when we look in retrospect at what's taking place here in the advanced society right now, in terms of our economic securities as a people, as a whole, and looking at how we formulate ourselves in this Moorish Science Temple of America to conduct our affairs properly and efficiently, how do we see ourselves through this journey? What would you think that would be required initially to start this journey towards economic freedom?
Well, thank you, Brother Crump Bay, for having me on the program. It's a blessing to be here with such wonderful, beautiful Moorish Americans, the sisters, and Brother Fort Bay. We thank you for having us. Like always, we like to reference the Prophet's basics, the Prophet's Noble Drew Ali's solution towards economic sustainability. When you look at the message he gave America, an historical message to America, where he quoted his economic agenda. And one of the things he talked about, three sustainable things in my estimation. The first, he mentioned about better jobs for our boys and girls. To me, that means that in order to be able to have better jobs, you need a skilled labor force to produce good paying jobs. So in conjunction with that, you see that there was the Young People Moorish National League that was created along with that concept of developing young people to become skilled in the labor to get good jobs. Next, he talked about business development, creating businesses for the organization, which is essential to be able to utilize the resources we have at our disposal and bring those resources together and make them work towards one economic reality. But getting back to the basis of the question, the first thing I think that we need to do, Brother Crumbe, is do an assessment. You know, we need to know what do we have at our disposal that we can utilize that can begin to give us an indication that we can move towards economic sustainability. What kind of resources we have at our disposal. I think that's the first step that one would have to do when they're moving towards economic sustainability, do an assessment of where you at.
Mm-hmm. An assessment. And in doing that assessment, I mean, what type of things should we be noting? Because before the corn can be planted, the ground has to be prepared. So when we do an assessment, what are we looking at? What would be the main components that we should be looking for?
We should be looking at from an economic standpoint, we should be looking at the human capital, the human capacity that we got. How many doctors we have, how many people we have, more we have with master's degrees or business experience or skilled labor force, or that human capital that's in our midst we might not be aware of. We got to first understand what is in our midst that we can use to move towards an economic reality. So the first thing would be to try to pinpoint the human capital. How many master's degrees we got, how many doctors we got, how many PhDs we got. Because roughly these are European scholarship translates to a certain dollar amount. When you get a certain degree based upon the European economy, you are supposed to be making this kind of money, in the workforce. So we get understanding of what kind of resource we got on the human side. I think that's the first step we need to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even with the degrees and all the accolades that come along with that, we know that when we're in search of jobs, or being in some sort of administrative role to carry it out. I mean, I've seen the polarity that it definitely doesn't fall even when we look at different counterparts who may possess the same degrees. And when they go to find themselves a place in the job world, their income or their per capita is always higher for whatever reason that may be, which kind of brings us to the point of, instead of building jobs and futures and dreams for others, it's always good to learn how to do that for ourselves, to not to shun school away, but to allow ourselves to get those degrees and bring that back home, return this sap back to the root from which it comes, because so often we get the degrees and then we go away with those degrees and we build a franchise or a network or a database that's economically more advantageous to someone else as opposed to bringing it home. You know, do you see that happening?
Oh yes, I agree with that, but mainly, I'm looking at what I'm mentioning, Brother Crumb, is to be able to get us access to capital.
Okay.
So you want to be able to document that potential that can be able to tell somebody or partner with somebody and say, hey, we have the capacity to be able to return the capital with the interest if we able to partner with them.
Mm-hmm.
And having that information only strengthens our position and minimize the risk with the partner to say, hey, they know what they're doing.
Absolutely. I got you there.
So that's be used as a means of us, once we do an assessment and figure out what we want to do, then that becomes, and that's on the credit side of the spectrum, and negotiate to get capital to do what we plan on, whatever we're going to do.
Okay. So to use those tools as keys to unlock different doors that perhaps otherwise may be closed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got you.
If I'm trying to get access to capital to build a supermarket, but I ain't got no experience in supermarket, but I got somebody that might be the Moorish America that might have ran 3 or 4 supermarkets,
Mm-hmm.
and I list him as my manager of the supermarket, and that's going to minimize the risk as it relates to those who are going to loan you the capital to get a supermarket.
I got you. Well, thank you for that. I mean, we're going to come back to you momentarily, but we got some other panelists that we'd like to hear from as well. Sister Spearman Hill, Sister Kay Spearman Hill. Islam, my sister, how are you?
Islam, I'm peaceful. How are you?
Good. Now, I mean, your experience in business, because I mean, you own a couple of different businesses in the city of Detroit. A very successful, astute businesswoman that's been successful for many years. I mean, in understanding, you have a lot of those certifications that Brother T. Irons Hill was just speaking about, the few of the degrees. How is that applicable to you launching and promoting your business?
What is not. See, the thing about it is, the first thing it teaches you is you have to think that your conditions can be better for you to even be able to grasp what's going on in society and get, whatever your field may be. When you were speaking about, you spoke about the first line. The first thing you said was, how do we get in this position of the same mentality? How is our economic positioning in society the same as it was in 1860 and 2020? Because what the prophet told us is mental slavery. So as a people, we have to think our conditions can be better. We have to value buying property over a Chanel bag. We have to value those things first before we can gain economic security. My businesses have not been always successful, but experiences has been my best teacher. It was not my degrees that I earned.
Mm-hmm.
My degrees I got my degrees because I wanted to be able to stand in the affairs of men. Mm-hmm. And those credentials allow me indoors that otherwise I would have another route. I would have to use a different route to enter. So my degrees allowed me to meet people. Like they tell you in our Quran that Jesus went on all the halls to study. So I go in all halls and study. Anywhere I can learn or progress or bring in some information, I go. I go to seminars. I just like how I became a certified entrepreneur trainer. I applied myself. Some people don't want to apply themselves. You know, the first thing of being an entrepreneur or successful in anything is you have to be a worker. Work is on, as 25 said, work is only done by those who do the work. Everybody want to be a boss. You can't be a boss without being a worker first. So you have to, like you said, you got to plant your seeds properly. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes to make your business successful. And education teach me that. Life taught me that.
Okay.
You know, my business, I do birthday parties for a living. I do have several businesses, but the one that has been around the longest is my indoor playground. Excuse me, I have a new puppy. Has been my indoor playground. And with the indoor playground, I have almost lost everything I've had. You know, it always tells you 5 years before you can see a profit. I'm going to year 5. And then Corona hit. Before I could get ready to turn the profit, out of those 5 years, Corona hit. But in building that business, first of all, I've never had a job working for anybody else.
Okay.
But I've never been homeless either. So I have always paved the way for myself. I've always figured it out, you know, but everybody doesn't have that. Some people are meant to get up and go to work for somebody else. Doesn't make them less industrious, because there's some people that don't even feel like they need to get up out the bed every day. They wait on somebody to give them something. So entrepreneurship is not per se for everyone. Some people just meant to get up and go to work every day. You know, and that doesn't make them lesser on the totem pole. That's an honorable thing. Because everybody won't do that, you know? So for me, entrepreneurship, I just wasn't big on anyone telling me what to do. I wasn't big on taking a 30-minute lunch break, and I wasn't big on working for anyone else. So that's how I found my lane in entrepreneurship. Then I found a niche. My niche market is children. Children is my niche. I do children birthday parties. And I've been able to carve me a lane that's for me. And with that, I've learned that with my parties, like the little girl, I give you a prime example. Yesterday we had a party. The little girl said she had to go. The little girl worked for me. She's usually one that dresses up in those mascot characters. And she said, I know you're glad I came to work because they weren't going to be able to have that character they paid for. I said, if I had to put that character out, costume on, I had no problem with it. Everybody don't feel like that. You know, get dressed up as the character and dance around for your customers. My customers pay me good money. You have to be willing to do everything it takes to make your business successful. And that comes from inside. That's not anything anyone can teach you. It's your determination to be successful is what's going to propel your success.
I got you. So when the prophet said, you know, if you feel that your conditions can be better, join us more Science Temple of America, and you felt that your conditions can be better in terms of your economic standpoint, probably before you got into the temple, it just aligned itself. The purpose of it kind of aligned itself with where you were already going in your journey. You mentioned that you never really had a job, so you've always basically found your way, putting in the sweat equity. You're saying, hey, look, you know, a lot of people, like you stated, want to just jump up and be the boss, but they have to know that, hey, look, they got to put everything in place in order to get to be the boss. So you got to be willing to work. You got to be willing to put in the sweat equity. You
have to be willing to put in the sweat equity. I joined the Morris Science Temple of America when I was 18. And I remember having some money and buying me a piece of property first, you know, just starting little, you know, collecting some rent money and being happy with the fact I was young enough not to have real responsibility, you know, and from there, just like I said, it's not, sometimes people scared to go get a real estate license or your truck driver's license, not knowing just because you have your trucker's license, you got some good credit, you can go finance you a rig. A rig is only $80,000. You can finance that, then you can make your own money on the highway. And next thing you know, you can have a fleet of rigs.
There you go.
You know, so it's things you
So
can do
not
like
getting jumped, not getting stuck in just working for someone else, but having some sort of vision to want to break free and have your own. But like you say, you're gonna have some people that's gonna have to be employed. You
right.
got
And if
workers
they
and you
getting up
got people
every
that
day,
don't.
being on time,
Absolutely.
just making it to their job and having a good work ethic, being
Mhm.
able to see, because if I have a good work ethic and I work somewhere, you know what I could do next? I can introduce you to my other brother who got a good work ethic and help him get a job, help support his family.
There you go.
You know, so you can pay it forward. It's ways, just because you're not per se an entrepreneur. It's your mindset that's gonna uplift our nation financially. Supporting each other's businesses, not looking at Sister Smith Bay chicken place and then looking at the European chicken place and saying, well, they chicken better over here. You know, it's the self-hate we gotta let go of before, so we could break into our next level of economic freedom. We gotta know it. And then, like the other brother Irons Hill was talking about, getting your credit together. A lot of us don't have good credit. Mm. Credit is everything. This pandemic has been a blessing. If you had good credit and things like that and had your business together, the government paid you well. It's things that you have to do that you could be able to. I look at everything that's happened over the last few months. If it wasn't for the pandemic and the groundwork that I did before, I wouldn't have been able to be a participant in what the government was giving out. Mm-hmm. Some people say, "Oh, well, I don't want any parts of the government." I don't know why. We part and partial. And so, with that being said, you had a business. They gave you a loan so you could keep your employees on point. They gave you a loan to get your money, to pay for your cost of living, because they know you don't collect per se Social Security and those other things that other people that go to work every day. But you had to have. But the first thing they said was your credit score is 650 or higher. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to have those type of foundations together to be able to get the other things you need.
Okay.
Investors and capital, and working capital and things like that. But I remember someone told me about purse hustling and running a business. A lot of times our businesses, we hustle through them. Even though they be good business models, we hustle straight through them. We get our money, we put it in our pocket, we spend it. Pay our bills, do whatever. We don't have records. We don't have profit and loss statements. We don't have balance sheets. We don't use a proper payroll system. Those are things we have to learn.
Exactly. And you know, the prophets also said, out of the worst, the wise can find means to do good. And I do thank you for all that you shared with us. And I'm sure we're going to hear more from you. Now, Brother Ford Bay, Assistant Grand Sheik at Temple 25, business mogul and developer. You know, I mean, when you listen at the dialogue that's being implemented, that's being stated right now, how would you look at this standpoint of Brother T.I. was saying, hey, look, we need to get the assets together. The sister said, well, yeah, even with the assets, you got to know what to do with those assets. You got to be willing to get in and do the sweat equity. It's not necessarily, even though she has several degrees, she's not saying, well, that's what really promoted her to move forward, to be successful. It was more of her desire. You know, in terms of how you conduct your affairs, owning several businesses and things of that sort in Detroit, how would you address those concerns more?
And honest to the prophet, praise Allah. You know, it's kind of going in business for some people is a nightmare. You know, it's something that people want, but at the same time, it's not for them. As the sister stated, everybody can't run a business, but everybody can participate in making that business a success. Seeing what we lack in our community is a program or some kind of a system to teach our children, because it's past us. We have to teach our children a give back policy. Prophet tells us the sap of the tree returneth the sap to the root from which it arose. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's what we have to teach our children. You have to give back. You don't make money for you to harbor and take care of yourself. You make money so that you can help your community grow. When your community grow, you grow. You know,
Mhm.
you can go and ask Brother Irons Hill, brother, I need $100,000 for a project I'm working on. And he'll say, well, you know, based on what you've done in the community and what you've done financially, I can give you a shot at that. But we don't have a give back policy, you know, and we don't have most people go in business become arrogant in their business.
Mm.
Mhm.
And that's something that we shouldn't do. You know, we get to a point to where we think that just because we own a business, we're good. When
Mm.
we're not good, if we're turning off the people that's coming in the door. You
That's
know,
right.
so it's a lot of personal, little small things that we have to look at in order to say, how can we make it? It's what the brother said, is what the sister said, is what Sister Smith Bay is going to talk about, and a whole lot of other people. We have to learn how the prophet tells us to love yourself. See, and in loving yourself, you develop a love for other people, mainly
Yes.
your own people. You know what I'm saying? Because you're another part of me, and I'm a part of you. So if I love me, I love you. So if I got a store and I'm selling shirts, I'm going to be fair with you because I love you and I want that kind of love for myself when I go in your place. If you don't have a place, then I want that kind of love so that you can come back in and continue to spend money with me. We need to teach our children that brand name isn't always the best name. You know, quality is what counts. You got a sister that sits and bakes her beans and, you know, sits and fusses over beans and it give you a quality, healthy, nutritious meal, which, you know, is very well. It is needed. But then you got somebody else with a big yellow sign that's telling you to come in there, and our children are running there because they say that's where everybody else is going. I
Mm.
don't want none of that. If I wanted that, I could have ate that at home. You know, but we have to teach our children what's good and healthy for us, you know, because they don't know no more than what we teach them. You know, we have to teach them how to respect people when they go in their businesses, carry themselves in a way that when other people come in there and they see them, I mean, the whole dynamic of us as a people has been thrown off by too much television. You
Mm.
know, people see television and it's unregulated, unguided, and nobody tells them that's crazy. You know, it's just ha ha, yep, I saw that too, and they keep on. There's no lesson behind what they're looking at. All of these lessons help us become better people because when you explain to your child, that's comedy, that's funny, that's not how you should carry yourself, that's dangerous, that can get you killed. You know, when you sit there as our parents deal with us, you know, you couldn't just turn on the TV and look at anything. You know what I'm saying? So now you got these children that's unguided. We got to grab them and we got to teach them the fundamental teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali or any religion that you're a part of. Whatever it is, we have to teach our children to get back into the fundamentals of what our parents, because when we were the 50s, 40s, you know, we were great as a people. You know what I'm saying? We had our own community because nobody wanted us in their community. But our communities flourished because of the economics. They've discovered that it's more beneficial for them to let you in their store than it is for you not to go in their store. So I can pay you for working for me, but then you take that money home and it stays in your neighborhood because I don't want you in my neighborhood. Well, when they found out, hey, wait a minute,
Mm.
these people coming up,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
we need to burn all that down and let
Mm.
them come shop and spend with us. And we desire some things because we don't we stray after, as the prophet said, the gods of Europe, of whom we know nothing about. And we want to be a part of something that we really don't know anything about these people, but we want to be with them. You know, it's a strong desire to live in a suburban neighborhood, get out of the city, get away from where you came from. It's a whole bunch of things that we have to kind of like pull together and straighten our children out. And it all goes back to teaching them that they have to give something back. When our children go off to school for education, they get their education and go somewhere else. They don't bring it back home.
That's
So
right.
how can I get a good economics major to teach the children in the neighborhood about economics? How can I get a good lawyer to help us, as the sisters say, do things and conduct business in a legal way, you know, that we can grow and flourish and don't have to worry about the backlashes from doing business, as they say, shady. But, you know, it's only shady because I can't count your revenue, you know, but yet and still these things we have to, the only way we can do it is to pull our children back into our bosom. You know, they're loving somebody else right now, and we got to get them back. The sister spoke about something that's kind of a shame, you know, but there's a lot of pandemic money. The children call it PUA, you know, and jugging and all these other names they got for, you know, these children run around with all kinds of money, you know, and they're applying, as the sisters say, their good credit and falsifying things. And some people are legit, but they're not taking it and using it for the betterment of where they coming from. They're buying purses and gym shoes and cars and things that we don't need as a community. We need brick and mortar.
That's right.
We need the things to pull us together so that we can say this is ours. You
That's
know, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna stop. You know, people. I heard somebody say, you know, they got Greek town, they got Mexican town, they got Pole town. Where is our town? You know, and how could you be so blind? Detroit is our town. You know what I'm saying? We don't even know what's ours. You know what I'm saying? As a people, we don't even know the greatness that we hold. You know what I mean? And we have to kind of bring it back. You know, we got to get back to the basics. Once we get back to the basics, then we can do the things that need to be done. But if I got somebody constantly throwing me off, you know, and somebody constantly telling me that what I'm doing don't make sense, do it like this, you know, then I always end up in something else.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you hit some major points, and definitely commend you on that. You know, and we got to start at our knees and below. I mean, because when we look at our vast future, our future is dependent upon the children, those coming after us. You know, when we look where, if they don't know where they are at, as opposed to not even entertaining the thought of where they're going, they don't even know where they're at. You know, they're kind of lost in society because materialism, as we kind of rehash, has kind of overweighed certain things. I mean, a man's ideal is their God. And as that person unfolds, their God unfolds. They put more credence and power in things that pass away versus building community, because they're not seeing community being built. Because you stated, Brother Ironsville stated, and a lot of times we get these degrees and we go somewhere else and we build another dream for someone else. But the brother pinpointed assets. See, when you were talking about assets in that retrospect, you know, here it is, as a people, we leave our children no assets. When we leave, everything else leaves. There's nothing left for them to stand upon, no economic advantages. And so as a people, when you look at 87% of the assets have been frozen to whereas the heirs and the heirs inherit this wealth, you know, this mass distribution of wealth, of which we have not been a player in any extent that it would actually have an impact on our people today. You know, so therefore, like you said, we got to build our own towns and things of this sort, build our own communities, let the dollar flow freely through each other's hands, because somebody saw, wait a minute, They're catching on to this economic thing. See, social economics has to do with people exchanging goods and services. And when a people can coexist together without incident, without me getting mad at you because you got something and I'm trying to, come in and devour what you have, I'm trying to build you up. That's what it should be about. And when those resources have been basically dispersed outward to other communities who take advantage of that, take your monies and go put them in their own communities, our dollars never turn in our communities. Our dollars go out of our communities. And when we look at other communities thriving, like you mentioned, Greek town, Mexican town, Chinatown, in every urban city that you go to, no matter what state, you have a town. But where's our town? Well, our town is spent basically being consumers, being avid consumers, and vividly jumping through the hoops that we've been jumping through all our lives. Because like the sister stated, we're more inclined in that mindset, a lot of our youth, to gravitate towards the gym shoes, the purses, the lifestyle, not looking at what tomorrow may bring. And that's where we have to start funneling our direction in our children to set aside everything else and start to capture their minds again. Because, the prophet said about economic securities that we would not be secure in nothing until we have economic securities. But in a more profound sense, he said it's largely moral and spiritual. And Sister Smith Bay, she was basically on point, when I talked to her the other day, and I found it so fitting for her to be on this panel of discussion, because we're talking about shifting the paradigm in terms of how people think. If we keep thinking like those that thought in the past, then we're only going to get a result of that which they got in the past. If nothing has changed, if we only own less than 0.5% of 1% of this nation's wealth, as we did back in the 1860s, in this day, then if we don't change how we're thinking and conducting our affairs, then nothing will change. Because we can see this same mindset being birthed into our children, in these TVs and various other activities that go along, because that's where we got to start focusing in on the children, which is definitely an asset. So Sister Smith Bay, I would love for you to be able to tell us, before the corn can be planted, the ground has to be prepared. So what is it as a people that we need to be focusing in on, besides, before we can even get to having economic securities, we're talking about shifting our mindset. What would you say that we need to do first?
Ms. Morris, thanks for having me. I would like to say first off that we need to learn how to break unhealthy habits. We have so many unhealthy habits. We don't take care of ourselves, first off. And in order to be in a business or have a business, even conduct business, you have to have a healthy mindset and a mindset to be able to do those things. But when you have so many other things conflicting, with that mindset, you can't move forward in, conducting any type of business. You have to have moral and a spiritual, a healthy type mindset. And we have to do things for ourselves to get to that level. It starts out teaching our children, they have to know how to do certain things. They have to know how to manage money, whether they get allowances. And some people don't even do that anymore. I used to hear a lot about children getting allowances or getting money for grades and things like that. And our lives have become so fast paced. We don't take time to teach certain things that our children need to know to move forward in life, so they'll know that when they get that extra money or when they get a handout, if you will, anything, that the first thing to do isn't to go buy gym shoes or buy the latest gear, whatever. Put that money in we used to have penny banks for our children. Now, you can open account, savings account, teach them how to go to the bank with you and, transact business, because it starts there and it grows as they grow. We teach our youngsters, like say, for instance, in Sunday school, how to take minutes or, write things down that are being said, so that, they can transition into those positions when they become able to do so. It's the same thing at home. Teach them, take them with you to take care of certain things, whether it's to pay a bill, whether it's going to the grocery store to buy foods that are healthy for them and not necessarily, things that they just want to eat just for satisfaction, all the sweets and one thing that I learned through this pandemic and just watching a lot of people, and they said it so often on the news outlets and different things. When you went in the grocery stores, the shelves and everything, they were completely empty. But when you go to the produce section, where the fruits and the vegetables and the fresh foods were, there were an abundance of those type of things. So we have to start at the beginning, teaching our children to put in, in their bodies, in their minds, the good stuff. It's watching TV. When you're watching TV, watch things that are educational, not necessarily things that are going to make us laugh and, things that are going to have us trying to mimic what's going on the television. Something that we can learn from, something that we can share with the next person, something that could actually bring us to a higher level. And a lot of times we as parents have to sit there with our children and explain things as they're going on, as they're unfolding on the TV. As Brother Ford Bay said, it's not about all of that. It's not about all trying to mimic and be like somebody else. We have to learn how to, break the unhealthy habits that we're so used to just portraying in our environment. We have to learn how to set healthy examples for our children. They look at us, they mimic us in everything that we do. If they see us eating right, then more than likely they're going to try to do the same thing. If they see us, sitting down on the phone, calling, waiting, sometimes you have to be on hold. Our children today are so impatient. They want things right here, right now, and it doesn't work like that. It takes patience, perseverance, to get to where you want to be in life, whether it's going to be an entrepreneur, as the sister said, even working for somebody else. You may not be that person that could run a business, and that's totally fine. But we have to have some of our children running these businesses.
Absolutely.
We have to have some of us being able to take instructions, because, authority, that's like foreign these days with children. They don't want any type of, respecting others, respecting elders. It's a lot of foreign stuff to, this generation. So it's really about, like I said before, we have to learn how to break these unhealthy habits. Those unhealthy habits is that same mental slavery that's been talked about so much. That's unhealthy for us. So we have to learn how to break those chains and do the things that we need to do to move forward and, sustain ourselves. We don't have to wait. If anything we should have learned during this time is how to take care of ourselves. As I stated before, life has been so fast paced. We want to grab the convenience. We want to run out and get fast food. We want to, when nobody cooks at home anymore, it's all about stopping at the store, grabbing dinner, on the way from work, school, wherever. But it's just as easy to go home, take something out of the refrigerator and, cook it. I think that we should have learned now how to take better care of ourselves by utilizing what we have already in our homes. whether it's, getting on the computer, trying to find out, different recipes, something quick. But until we learn how to take care of ourselves, we cannot go out and expect to run a business, because we're not treating people how they should be treated if you don't even know how to treat yourself. If you learn that self-love first, then you'll learn how to, go out and listen to that still small voice that the prophet tells us about. If you offering a service, you hear the don't oversell. If you pay a little bit for something, yeah, you want to make a profit, but so we like to be greedy. We like to take advantage of others. And we have to, get into the mindset that we also want to help that person as well. So if we have something that they need, why not share it? Sometimes even without making a profit. Sometimes just giving, a lot of times we need someone to just give us something and not necessarily want something in return. So I think a good moral and spiritual mindset is something that we need to revert back to. It's not about just, surviving all the time. It's about helping our brothers and sisters as well.
Good, good. And Sister Nut, I mean, that was just right on point with everything that you stated, because I mean, so often, when we look at our children, and I mean, the welfare of our nation as a whole going forward is dependent upon the conduct of our children. And with this electrified age being the way it is, we're racing into this life. We're so busy. We're so busy chasing after the money, chasing after the job, chasing after all these things that are moving so swiftly that a lot of times we do not set aside and dedicate the right time to actually give attention to those issues, to sit back and learn how to do those things. Okay. Now I see Sister Spearman Hill. She has her hand up. What's going on, sister?
I just like what everybody had to say, but just talking about what Sister P. Smith Bay said, I have a little person. I have, and my daughter, and I'm the secretary at Temple 20. And she's right. Lulu sits there with me. She takes minutes. You've seen her, Crumb Bay. She'll go back there. She'll take minutes, and it does teach her a lot. Banking is important. And I find that she teaches me sometimes. She'll look at something and say, oh, you spend too much money. Put that back. Things like that. Just learning how to save, taking her money. And I remember first when she first, from the baby shower up, we bought her piggy banks. And when she turned 7, we took the piggy banks to Michigan First and we cashed them in. She had almost about $1,800 in these piggy banks because we would take the change. So like this year, we doing a challenge where we don't spend any dollar bills. And those things, we opened up her a bank account. She has a bank account. We teach her how to save money because Fort Bay, right, it does start with the children, because at this point, that's what we have to teach. And society is teaching our children to be irrelevant. They're blinding them with these images of themselves and the social media and things like that. And I think that's it's just a distraction. Every generation needs a distraction. Mm-hmm. One generation needed crack cocaine, next generation took all the daddies out the home. Now is sexuality, this Instagram. It's confusing for our kids, but it's a distraction to what's real. Mm-hmm. And they'll throw it out there to our children. They don't mind if a few of their children get caught in it, as long as all of our children get caught in it. Mm-hmm. And it's important that we like the sister said, we have to watch documentaries. Think about the fact that our children are not even learning how to read proper handwriting. So how are you going to be able to read original scrolls and things like that was written in cursive and things like that? You only going to know off Google. So you're going to be what somebody tell you to be. You can't, they're taking this to the point our children can't even research. So I just had to commend both the brother and the sister when they took it all the way back to our roots, which is our children, because our children right now are being distracted in a way we were not distracted in. They are completely distracted with what's going on, what's real, what's tangible, what the future. They don't even have a concept of tomorrow. At least we knew tomorrow was going to show up. They killing at an all-time rate. They take lives like they're watching a video game. I mean, their morals, their values is going, and you're right, you have to teach them. Because like even my daughter, she has her own t-shirt line. It's called YOLO, You're Only Little Once. And her little money she makes off that, was she during the pandemic, we took some of her money, we ordered her children's PPE equipment, protection mask, and things like that for her to sell, because I want her to be independent. But even while I'm teaching her these things, you know what she told me? She want to go get a job so she could see what the real workforce is like.
It does sound.
That's the same thing I said.
Yeah. Well, Morris, I mean, I definitely, I definitely concur with everything, even though, I mean, time really runs quickly when we're on these panels, and we definitely going to have to revisit and pivot from here, because Brother Iron Zeal, Brothers Ford Bay, Sister K Spearman Hill, Sister Smith Bay, they just kind of like peeled back one little small layer of the iceberg that we have to deal with, and when we talked about assets, identifying the assets, being able to take advantage of those assets and bring them back home to establish the businesses. But the more than anything, focus on the children at our knees and below, those that are born and yet unborn. We would have had the floor open to entertain questions. I know that we may have a lot of questions that we may have to be able to answer in the blogs and in the chats forthcoming on this platform, and those that's going to be provided. But I know time is getting amongst us, so we'd like to just get some closing statements from each one of you, and then we're going to bring it to a close. Brother Iron Zeal.
I want to commend everyone on the panel. I really enjoyed the presentations that was given, and especially as it relates to our children. What I would say.
Let me just cut into you for 1 second. One of the questions is, you can do your closing statements. One of the questions that came to the panel was, what suggestions do you have to galvanize our youth? Did you get it?
I'm sorry, my lamp had failed. I'm sorry, I had to catch the lamp.
I said, as you were doing your finishing comments, one of the questions came through, and it was, what is one of the suggestions that you could come up with to aid us in galvanizing our youth? Someone in the chat posed that question.
Is to provide them with an outlet to be able to allow us to listen to them. I think that the young people need voices need to be heard. And I think there's a disconnect between some of us older brothers and sisters not really listening to what the youth has to say. If we able to provide a forum, provide an outlet to listen to them, I think that's the basis of us being able to discover how we can be able to assist them.
Okay.
And again, it goes back to that concept with Fort Bay and the sister was talking about our youth, where we have to look at where the Prophet of Allah talks about the moral and the spiritual values. We must maintain our moral base and our spiritual base first. The Quran talks about labor not after riches first and think that thou would afterwards enjoy them. So we have to make sure that our spiritual and moral foundation is intact. And when we reflect that, then we would be able to draw towards us the young people that's trying to make a change. And hopefully we can be able to impact them where they can draw other young people where they can be able to see how they can be able to make a change in their lives.
Gotcha. Well, Brother T.R. Zeal, we thank you for attending this panel, and we look forward to speaking more with you as the All CNI continues to formulate these type of forums where we can share these type of ideas and come with executable goals and means to carry it out. Brother Ford Bay, I have a question for you. It says, which path will we as a nation take to bring our nation up to standards financially?
Well, we have to bring ourselves up to what we need as opposed to trying to come up to somebody else's standards. It's been too long trying to project and live off of something somebody else. What do we need? Find out what we need and do what we need to make us satisfied, because we have to become content with whatever we have. And then out of that contentment, we'll find the happiness and the joy that we're looking for. It's not, I don't think we should be trying to come up to somebody's standard. I just think we need to try to improve the quality of life that we have with one another.
Mhm. So create our own standards as opposed to trying to always match what somebody else is doing. That's been going on far too long. We're always trying to live up to someone else's standard. We want to live up to so-called society standard. We want to look like them. We want to be like them. We want to walk like them. We want to talk like them. Instead of finding our own ingenuity and honing in on that asset that Brother Irons here was talking about, what Sister Kay Spearman was talking about, what Sister Smith Bay was talking about. It seems that one of our most valued assets in terms of any type of economic security is the people. And we got to start again at our knees and below. And what better asset than to invest in our children and build from that framework, educate them, because it's something that was so key.
In my attempt to prayerfully
The sister said something that was so key. That's throwing me off.
that he had an overwhelming
Whoever's talking in the background.
to bring back Sister Sharice Taylor.
I don't know how that's going. Can everybody hear me? All right, do apologize about that. But wherever I was going with that thought, I got thrown off from that one. So it'll just have to catch back up next week, you know. And next, well, we're gonna air All CNI. It's gonna be aired every 2 weeks for the listening audience. And we had a lot of people asking questions. We just didn't have enough time to attend to them all. But we're gonna have a blog where we're can get in there and kind of explore some of these questions, some of these thoughts. And we look forward to building upon this platform and learning how we can better use each other, because we are our greatest economic resources, learning how to use each other. A lot of us have skills and abilities. The best part of it is knowing how to employ people according to their merits. You know, learning how to separate and remove the wedges that separates us from ourselves, or separates us from becoming prominent in this socio-economic development plan that we so desperately need as a nation of people. And it starts, like where Sister Smith Bay says, it starts at home. Charity begins at home and spreads abroad. We have to teach our youth those things if we expect from them ready obedience. You know, it says, watch the bent of their inclination, and it season their minds with the maximum of truth. So in the same respect, we have to be those examples. We just can't tell them, hey, go get your reward. We have to show them how to do certain things. And that's where the sweat equity comes in. When the sister said, hey, look, just don't be a boss. Hey, just don't say you're a parent just because of the name. Be a father. Be a mother. You know, do the things that are required to kind of shift the paradigm of their mindset, because there's something else that has their attention and growth a lot grander than ours. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you on today for coming to the All CNI. And again, we look forward to more platforms like this to discuss those things that are necessary for the uplifting and fall of humanity. I would like to get Sister Smith Bay and then Sister Spearman closing remarks, and then we'll bid peace to everybody. Sister Smith Bay.
Yes, I'd just like to say, you know, we just need to take better care of ourselves. Take better care of ourselves by the things that we put into our bodies, whether it's food, knowledge, you know, take the time to meditate, take the time to take a minute from our busy lives I know mine is extremely busy, so I'm talking to myself as well. You know, we just have to take a moment, sit back, you know, do some self, you know, just go within yourself. We have to learn how to just be still. You know, be still, do a 5-10 minute meditation, whatever it is we need to do to just regroup and get those things in our mindset that we need to move forward and to do things on a higher level. We have to learn how to move forward from all of this. If anything, this whole situation with the pandemic should be teaching us that you know, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to. The stores are gonna, you know, continue to be empty or overpriced. And there's so many things that our parents did for themselves that we should have learned from, that we could be passing on to our children, but we lost them. We lost them, you know, in the rapid, you know, movement that we've been doing year after year after year. So we have to reach back, learn how to take those sewing classes so that we can make our own clothes. Take those. I don't even think we need to go to somewhere to learn how to cook. You know, you can teach yourselves. Recipes are plentiful on the social media, on websites. A lot of things that we can do to better ourselves and to pass on to our children. We just need to get back to doing them.
I thank you, my sister. Sister Spirit Manil. I guess she popped off for a second. But anyway, Morris, you know, as we look, you know, to the changes that this pandemic, you know, may bring, you know, many of us look from a vantage point of fear and trepidation. Others embrace the change and see an opportunity for us to rise from the ashes, to promote growth in our future. You know, be it social, educational, economic, spiritual, health, mental, agriculturally, or physically. You know, our moral responsibility is not to stop the future, but to shape it, to channel our destiny in humane type of ways and directions to ease the trauma of this mad human drama, not allow it to become the seat or the source that fuels us, but to look for remedies for the conditions that exist around us. And again, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. Where you at, sister? She chimed back in. I was trying to get her to jump back in there. Where's she at? Where you at, sister? I'm trying to hold it for you.
Yeah, she said she's back on, but
Yeah, I can't
I'm
see
not
it.
sure.
All right. Well, anyway, well, I'm sure the sister has a juggernaut for us, but we've been given quite a bit and we kind of a little bit over time. So I thank you again, brothers and sisters, for your time. May you be blessed. May you be peaceful. Continue to do whatever it is that you're doing, because you guys are doing a phenomenal job, you know, in your business, at work, in your homes, on the streets. I know you all are for peace and not destruction. And keep doing whatever you're doing and champion yourself through whatever conditions that may befall you, because you got the solutions. We got it. All we got to do is just keep the prophet out front. And I say peace to you.
Peace. Thank you.